The Egyptian president discusses attracting investment while ensuring energy efficiency with officials. The final communiqué of the Arab League emergency meeting condemns Israel's transformation of Gaza into a famine zone. And the next round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine is set for tomorrow. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and Petroleum Minister Karim Badawi to review the ministry's current priorities. The meeting included discussing boosting production and exploration, maximizing value from refining and petrochemicals, advancing mining and enhancing regional cooperation to attract investment while ensuring energy efficiency and emission reductions. The meeting highlighted efforts to secure petroleum supplies, increase local oil and gas output, and expand exploration activities. Infrastructure upgrades, such as floating gas regasification units, were discussed to ensure supply continuity. Collaboration with Cyprus to diversify gas sources and initiatives to develop mining into a dynamic economic sector were also reviewed. President al-Sisi emphasizes fostering an investment-friendly environment to support growth and reduce import costs. And now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. The final communiqué of the Arab League emergency meeting has condemned Israel's transformation of Gaza into a famine zone, condemning the use of starvation as a weapon of war, a form of genocide against the Palestinian people. The communiqué called on the international community to act immediately to halt the aggression, recognize the ongoing catastrophe, and address the famine in Gaza. It urged the activation of international accountability mechanisms for Israeli crimes and pressured Israel to promptly open crossings and allow humanitarian aid into Gaza. The communiqué also labeled Israel's policies of forcibly displacing Palestinians as genocide under the Rome Statute. Egypt has welcomed the joint statement by the foreign ministers of more than 20 countries calling for an end to Israel's war on Gaza and condemning Israeli actions that block humanitarian aid to civilians. In a statement by the foreign ministry, Egypt fully supports the rejection of relocating Palestinians to a so-called humanitarian city, viewing forced displacement as a grave violation of international law. The statement's denunciation of Israeli settlement expansion and settler violence in the West Bank was also praised. Egypt reaffirmed its ongoing efforts alongside Qatar and the U.S. to broker a Gaza ceasefire and urged the international community to adopt practical steps towards a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as the capital. In Gaza, famine is deepening as hospitals report a surge in child malnutrition deaths. This is a 6-week-old Yusuf El-Safadi dead from hunger. His family says infant formula has vanished from shelves, and the little that's left costs over $100 a box. His mother herself, malnourished, was unable to breastfeed. Doctors at El-Shafa say such tragedies are no longer rare. They've seen a surge in child malnutrition and dehydration cases. 14-year-old Musab El-Dips lies in hospital bed, another victim of the deepening crisis. Dr. Mohammed Abu Salmiya says over 86 people have died from hunger since the crisis began, with 21 deaths recorded in the last day and a half alone. He's calling on the world to act and to open the borders and to let in aid that's stuck just meters away from Gaza. The hunger crisis in Gaza is worsening, with health officials now reporting over 100 deaths from malnutrition since the war began, and most of them in recent weeks. At least 80 of the victims are children. Gaza residents say they are not just hungry, but starving. Aid remains critically limited, with Israel maintaining full control over access into the besieged enclave. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says its staff, along with doctors and humanitarian workers, are collapsing from hunger and exhaustion. Despite international condemnation, there has been no effective action to increase aid or end the war. Israel says it supports aid delivery but blames Hamas for disrupting it, an allegation Hamas denies. Since October the 7th, nearly 60,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes, according to local health authorities. Palestinians have gathered at the site of an Israeli tank shelling in western Gaza City that struck a tent encampment housing displaced families. Local health officials reported that the attack killed at least 12 people and wounded dozens. Tanks near El Shata camp fired 2 shells at the tents. The Israeli occupation military has not commented yet. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed deep concern over the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian situation in Gaza, where vital lifelines sustaining the population are collapsing. His spokesperson, Stéphane Dujarric, highlighted alarming reports of widespread malnutrition affecting both children and adults. Guterres emphasized Israel's responsibility to fully enable and facilitate humanitarian aid efforts by the UN and other organizations using all available means. The worsening crisis demands urgent action to prevent further suffering and loss of life.
Humanitarian access as a first step to achieve a two-state solution.
The UN has warned of a worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, with a surge in malnourished children admitted to Rantisi Children's Hospital amidst severe shortages of food and medical supplies. Malnutrition among mothers exacerbates child health, causing infections and deaths. Despite Israel lifting an 11-week blockade, aid deliveries remain limited, and the UNRWA is banned from entering. UNICEF reported over 5,800 malnourished children last month, marking a 4th consecutive increase. Families scavenge for food as community kitchens run dry, highlighting dire conditions. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has urged Israel to allow foreign journalists into besieged Gaza amid growing famine warnings after 21 months of conflict. Speaking from eastern Ukraine, Barrot called for free and independent press access to document Gaza's dire situation. He criticized the Hanzala aid ship heading to Gaza as irresponsible, saying it does not help resolve the humanitarian crisis. That comes as the UN warned Gaza's lifelines are near collapse, with over 800 Palestinians killed seeking aid. And Barrot's appeal underscores urgent international concern over Gaza's worsening humanitarian disaster. And for more analysis, we are now moving to Hala El Hamalawi in our newsroom. Hala.
Thank you so much, Salma. For further analysis, we're joined from Ramallah by the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah, Mr. Ahmed Fattouh. Welcome to Q News. Mr. Fattouh, how does the Arab League's labeling of Israel's actions in Gaza as genocide under the Rome Statute actually impact international legal accountability and diplomatic responses?
Of course, all reaction and very important. The Arab League message is very clear and solid in support of the Palestinian people, especially amid this ongoing horror that's going on in Gaza, where children are dying from hunger and malnutrition. Of course, we need immediate action and reaction from the international community to stop Israel from their crimes against humanity that's taking place before our eyes. The keys are in the hands of the United States and in the European Union, who is the biggest trade partner of Israel. We hope that they would make sanctions against Israel and to cut off their deal with Israel in response to the massive genocide, the massive killing, the massive starvation of the Palestinian people. But unfortunately, they failed to. We now are in a very dire situation that statements alone is not enough. What is needed is an immediate action, an action that could repel and deter the far-right Israeli government from what they are doing. As you have just reported, children are dying daily. 4 have died today. And people are literally collapsing in the streets from hunger. There are people who are eating tree leaves. Some children are eating even sand. It is I'm speechless to describe what's going on in Gaza. It is very dire. It's very catastrophic, and the world must act. And we are surprised that 22 months of this crime, and yet Israel get no sanctions. Netanyahu is doing all this murder, and no one is there to stop him.
So what are
there is no explanation to that.
Yes, Mr. Fattouh, what are the potential effects of the Arab League's urgent call for humanitarian access and international intervention on the dynamics of the Gaza conflict and global diplomatic efforts?
To put the pressure in the entire world to stop this massacre, to stop this genocide, to allow the entry of aid. The pressure must build up and must also have a sort of actions. We hope that there's some serious diplomatic steps that would take further steps into forcing Israel to stop what it's doing, because we are in a very alarming situation right now, and every day the death number is going to multiply. If this continues, it's a matter of hours and days. This is not a matter of weeks.
Yes.
If this continues, we could hear in the news a big amount of death because of malnutrition. Most of them are children. Yes. We can't stress more how very dangerous the situation is, and requires all action and all cards to be played forward.
So what is the diplomatic impact of over 20 foreign ministers collectively condemning Israel's actions in Gaza? How does this unified statement affect global efforts to secure a ceasefire?
It's still not effective. I'm sorry to say that. Statements alone are not going to stop Netanyahu. Obviously, Israel does not care about the international law, about the international humanitarian law, about any rhetoric or talks against them. He's still continuing in his crime, in their crime. This fascist, far-right Israeli government does not care about anybody.
Okay, so what about the legal consequences, Mr. Fattouh? What about the legal consequences that arise under international law from forced displacement initiatives such as the proposed humanitarian city?
The legal consequences should be sanctions. Israel is committing a crime against humanity. It should be immediately sanctions, boycott, no arms deal, no trade until they repel. And those war criminals must go to the ICC, which, by the way, they have been prosecuted. The ICC judges and the ICC lawyers are now prosecuted and sanctioned by United States. Yes. United States today pulled from the UNESCO because UNESCO claiming that UNESCO is anti-Semitic. So United States is only providing an endless cover, political cover, for anybody criticizing Israel, for anybody taking action against Israel, for anybody taking legal action. So they are blocking legal action, blocking diplomatic action, blocking peace action. What action remained? That's why Israel need to be, according to the law, need to be punished for violating Geneva Convention, to retreat and end its genocidal war in Gaza, allow the full entry of aid without any obstacles. And then we go to an international conference for accountability and for peace. Because those who did this heinous crime, the crime of the century, must be prosecuted. Israel is a member state in the United Nations and is accountable to the international law and is obligated by the international humanitarian law to respect human rights. Violating it, make it a pariah state, a rogue state that deserves immediate sanctions.
Yes. So how crucial is Egypt's support for the joint foreign minister's statement in influencing international pressure on Israel?
Of course, Egypt is playing a major role from the very beginning until now. Egypt is playing a pivotal role. And we hope and we call on our brothers in Egypt to push forward. Their pressure is very important, and they could actually do a big change. Now we rely on the Arab world, our brothers. Now the Arab League did move and did make a statement. Now we wish for further steps, diplomatic steps, to pressure even further, to pressure the EU, to the United States. Arab do hold strong relations with the international community, do hold economical influence and political influence. They could magnify that pressure further. And Egypt, of course, is standing against the mass transfer of the Palestinian people that they are trying to execute in Gaza, the Israeli Zionist far-right government, and that is a brave step, because we refuse all schemes that wish and want to squeeze the Palestinian people into concentration camps. That's the actual term for it. They call it the humanitarian camps, but that's far away from humanitarian. And in their aim to push the Palestinians near to the border and expel them from the land by creating unlivable conditions. We have to be very careful here, and Egypt is very aware of these schemes as well as the Arab world, and we hope for further very urgent pressure.
Given the escalating malnutrition and restricted aid, what tangible measures can the global community implement to ensure at least humanitarian access to Gaza?
Well, the only tangible measure is to allow the trucks to come. Food is just a few kilometers away. It's just for Israel to to open the borders. There's nothing physically not allowing or starving what's physically starving the people is the occupation, nothing else. There's no logistic problems, there's no political problems. The only problem is Israel. We cannot continue in that situation. They could allow aid to enter. There's no reason, there's no political reason, there's no even militarily objective from this starvation.
Yes,
it cannot continue.
Yes. Well, that was Mr. Ahmed Fattouh from Ramallah. He's the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah. Thank you so much for joining us here on Qnews. And now we go back again to Salma Al-Faqi in our studio to resume our bulletin. To you, Salma.
Thank you, Hayla. And now for the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has affirmed ongoing communications to address regional developments and prevent their impact on Lebanon. During a meeting with the evangelical community leader in Syria and Lebanon, Pastor Joseph Kassab, Aoun stressed the current sensitive phase demands national awareness and unified stances to preserve Lebanon's unity, sovereignty, and independence. He recalled Lebanon's resilience through tougher times, achieved by rallying around constitutional and security institutions. Aoun also praised the Lebanese political and spiritual leaders' responses to recent unfortunate events in Syria. Pastor Kassab expressed hope that Lebanon will overcome its current challenges and commended Aoun's active diplomatic efforts in this regard. U.S. Special Envoy for Syria Thomas Barak has held talks in Beirut with Lebanon's parliamentary speaker Nabih Berri in a visit focused on security and regional ties. This marks Barak's third visit to Lebanon in just over a month. The U.S. envoy, who also serves as ambassador to Turkey, is promoting a roadmap that includes disarming non-state armed groups, pushing long-delayed economic reforms, and improving Lebanon's relations with Syria. The visit comes amid heightened political and financial pressures on the Lebanese government. And moving on to Tehran, where the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has stated that despite severe damage to its nuclear facilities during recent Israeli-U.S. strikes, Tehran will not abandon its uranium enrichment program. He emphasized that enrichment is a scientific achievement and a matter of national pride. While enrichment activities are currently halted due to damage, Iran insists on retaining the rights to enrich uranium. Araghchi also noted openness to indirect talks with Washington, but rejected proposals for shared enrichment with Gulf states, underscoring Iran's commitment to its nuclear program. The Syrian Fact-Finding Committee on the Coastal Events has held a press conference revealing their investigation outcomes. The delay in announcing results was due to the severity of sudden incidents. The committee submitted its report to the president on time after reviewing 23 official briefings and collecting 930 witness testimonies. They documented over 480 cases of homes and shops burned, visited 33 sites, including violation locations and cemeteries, and recorded 1,426 deaths, including more than 230 security personnel. The committee identified 265 suspected former regime members involved, recommended governance reforms for security forces, urged prosecution of fugitives, and called for measures to prevent sectarian incitement. The investigation phase is now complete. And hundreds of Bedouin civilians were evacuated from Syria's Druze majority city of Suwaida under a U.S.-brokered truce after days of deadly sectarian violence that killed hundreds and displaced thousands. Families, including women and children, were relocated to a school in Daraa, with more evacuations planned if calm persists. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara blamed the outlaw groups for the bloodshed and pledged to protect the Jews' rights and ensure accountability. And moving on to the West Africa, where Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati is visiting Burkina Faso, marking the second stop of his West African tour. Accompanied by a high-level delegation of 30 Egyptian business leaders, the visit aims to deepen bilateral relations and expand commercial and investment cooperation. Abdelati is expected to hold talks with top officials to explore partnerships in development, capacity building, infrastructure, and energy. Discussions will also address regional security challenges, including counter-terrorism, and strengthen coordination in African and international forums to promote collective African interests and sustainable development. And Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has met the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Abuja, delivering a letter from the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The message highlighted the deep historic ties between Egypt and Nigeria and expressed eagerness to enhance cooperation across various sectors, supporting African security and stability. Abdelati emphasized advancing bilateral relations into a comprehensive partnership, building on recent high-level meetings. He also brought a delegation of 30 Egyptian business leaders to explore investment opportunities in infrastructure, energy, agriculture, and more. They reaffirmed commitment to joint efforts against terrorism and regional challenges, underscoring mutual dedication to Africa's peace and development. And Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati and Nigerian Foreign Minister Yusuf Tugar have witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Nigeria's Dar el-Hilal Group Limited and Egypt's Future of Egypt Sustainable Development Agency at the Nigerian Foreign Ministry in Abuja. The agreement aims to strengthen cooperation in managing agricultural facilities and projects, infrastructure development including roads, modern irrigation systems, and agricultural mechanization. It also promotes the exchange of technical expertise, fostering deeper bilateral collaboration to enhance sustainable development efforts in both countries. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has announced that the next round of peace talks with Russia is scheduled for July the 23rd in Turkey. Quoting the head of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Zelensky also mentioned ongoing preparations for a detainee exchange. Rustem Omarov, who is now the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, headed the first two rounds of talks with Russia. He confirmed the meeting plans during Zelensky's nightly address, promising further details soon. And the Kremlin has stated that no miracles should be expected from a proposed third round of direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, offering no timeline for a potential conflict-ending agreement. That comes as Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky announced Kiev's proposal for talks in Turkey this week, aiming to accelerate ceasefire negotiations. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov expressed skepticism about breakthroughs, emphasizing Russia's commitment to its goals. He declined to provide any time frame for a peace deal, noting significant work remains before high-level meetings can occur. Zelensky continues to seek a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin to advance negotiations. And German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has announced that Germany is negotiating with the U.S. for replacement Patriot missile systems as existing units are set to be transferred to Ukraine. And while the U.S. has generally agreed to supply new Patriots to Germany and the EU, these replacements have not yet been secured. Merz emphasized that Germany will deliver its systems to Ukraine once replacements are confirmed. The Norwegian Prime Minister stated that his country is prepared to share the costs once the procurement is finalized. And Saudi Arabia is stepping up efforts to become a global leader in esports with major tournaments, government backing and a national gaming strategy driving rapid growth. Riyadh is hosting the second annual Esports World Cup, drawing over 2,000 players from 84 countries and offering a record of $70 million prize pool. The event features top titles like Dota 2, Rensport and Valorant. Officials credit Vision 2030 and strong government support for boosting the industry. Local gamers say the impact is clear, with more youth actively engaged in the fast-growing esports scene. And in eastern Uganda, elderly women are embracing cricket and fitness as part of a community program tackling chronic diseases among older populations. Wearing wraparound skirts and wide smiles, women in their 60s and 70s jog across fields and swing cricket bats as part of a program fighting non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension. Launched 5 years ago, the initiative now involves over 1,000 women, promoting both physical health and social connection. Organizers say the program offers a vital lifeline as lifestyle-related diseases surge across Africa, especially among aging women. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin, and here's what we have been covering. The Egyptian president discusses attracting investment while ensuring energy efficiency with officials. The final communiqué of the Arab League emergency meeting condemns Israel's transformation of Gaza into a famine zone. And the next round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine is set for tomorrow. And this concludes our news bulletin for the hour. And don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. And thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.